Welcome to TraumaticBrainInjury.com. TraumaticBrainInjury.com is the leading resource on the internet for resources regarding traumatic brain injury for survivors, families, and caretakers. My name is Stuart Cohen. Today's guest is Dr. David Lenrow. Dr. Lenrow is a physician who specializes in physical medicine and rehabilitation. He's on staff at the Hospital University of Pennsylvania since 1987, and he's also on the faculty at University of Pennsylvania Medical School. Dr. Lenrow is involved in treating patients with traumatic brain injury as a regular part of his practice. Dr. Lenrow, thank you for agreeing to appear on TraumaticBrainInjury.com. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I know that you've brought with you today a model of the brain and the skull, and if those are helpful to you in answering any of the questions we have today, please feel free to refer to them, okay?
Okay.
Doctor, are any two brain injuries the same?
No. The interesting part is that every brain injury is different, and that's for a whole host of reasons. One is you never really know which part of the brain is going to be injured until it happens, but also everyone's brain's different to begin with.
The factors such as the cause of the brain injury, the location of the brain injury, and the severity of it affect the degree of brain injury?
Yes, they do. But even with two identical brain injuries or two identical mechanisms of brain injury, the outcome could be very different.
Well, maybe we should start by asking a simple question, which is, what's the job of the brain?
The brain is a very complex structure of which we understand only a small amount of how it actually functions, but what it does essentially is govern all the functions that our body performs, anywhere from breathing to high-level function that we perform perhaps at our jobs, thinking, speaking, and all our muscular activities. So essentially it governs everything that we do.
The skull itself, is that part of the brain?
No, it's not. It's the bony structure or the vault that protects the brain and covers the brain.
Could you show us that on the model?
Sure. Let's see. So the brain is here inside the bony skull, which is underneath the skin and a very small bit of muscle on the outside of our head. But inside is the brain, and actually surrounding the brain in between the bone are some tissues, but also spinal fluid that helps cushion the brain. So it essentially floats within this bony vault, and the fluid protects the brain to some degree.
Right. How does information get communicated to the brain?
Well, information gets communicated through a whole host of end organs that we have, some of which are our eyes, ears, nose, taste. All of those sensory organs give us information, but we also have connections within our brain where information is shared, and there are also sensory endings in our organs, in our skin for touch, and we communicate with the environment or get information from the environment through all those sensory organs.
Does the brain have anything to do with any of what we laymen call the involuntary movements that we make, such as breathing, heart rate, body temperature, that kind of thing?
Yes, it does. In fact, part of the brain, or the brain stem, which on this model is here, it's the low part of the brain that connects to the spinal cord, which starts and goes down the spinal canal. That part of the brain subserves or controls functions that are fairly primitive, or we at least in medicine we call them primitive, so it's heart rate, breathing, arousal, attention, sort of basic functions that we need to survive.
Doctor, do different parts of the brain serve different functions?
Yes, very different functions. And again, our understanding of these, of what the brain does in each part is somewhat primitive, but we know at least on a basic level what different parts do. So, for instance, we know that the occipital region interprets vision and helps us see or understand what we see. And we also know that there's a representation of the body and the brain on part of the cortex, or the outside of the brain, that controls motor function and sensation, and we can pinpoint, at least in some general terms, what parts of the body get those functions from what part in the brain.
All right. Well, we're going to have another section on traumatic brain injury on brain mapping with you. And if any of the viewers are interested in learning more about that, they can click on to that section. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.